Curtis, DIYer.
DIYers, here we are, 1 year anniversary of the GNX album, an album that absolutely made its stamp, made its mark in a very short period of time. It was a surprise album, if you remember. And I can tell you where I was at last year around this time. Let me just start off with this. I was not in the best of moods. You probably remember that live stream I did with Justin. It's not, look, Kendrick, if you're watching this, it wasn't nothing personal. It wasn't nothing personal. I was going through hell and I was tired of people. Then you dropped the album right before my vacation, you know, my yearly escape in December. You dropped the album, not just any album. It was the first album after that crazy battle. And I was ready to just stop. I just want to stop. I just want to stop and go to sleep. I just want to hibernate. But you dropped this album, and there was a few songs when I first heard them. I was like, I don't know if I was expecting this. I was more so looking for Tierra Masu. And then for the next year, off and on, because I didn't go to the gym consistently, I proceeded to work out to this music. I proceeded to check the mail to this music. My son said, hey, can you play Peekaboo one more time? Hey now, say now. This album made its mark, and there's some songs that had to grow on me. One of which is not GNX, the title track. It's no disrespect to nobody a part of that record. That record just, a year later, just ain't did it for me. It ain't did it for me. Every classic album got one of those, in my opinion. But let's start off with this. Shout out to my dog, Rob Markman. He made this post where he is asking the question, is GNX a classic album? Not your favorite. I know how this can go. Not your favorite Kendrick album. Not the best Kendrick album. But is it just a classic all across the board? Let's let Rob give some perspective, and I'll give some perspective. Oh, if you think this is bad, it's about to get worse, especially if you're a Michael Jackson fan.
All right, it's November 22nd, 2025. That means 1 year ago today, Kendrick Lamar dropped his GNX album. It's the 1 year anniversary. Want to have a little fun with it, want to talk with y'all. So y'all got to hit me in the comments. The question is this. 1 year later, is Kendrick Lamar's GNX a classic album, all right? For me, I'm going to give y'all my answer right away. The answer is yes.
I agree. Anybody in here disagree it's not a classic? Speak now, forever hold your peace in this chat. Let it be known. Is it a classic or not? Why? Just let me know.
And it didn't take me a year to determine this. I just figured it's the 1 year anniversary, so it's a fun conversation to have. But for me, it checks all the boxes. I mean, it got joints like Squabble Up, Luther's a joint, TV Off is a joint. And then, you know, you got like your conceptual storytelling joints that are meant to inspire you, like Gloria, like Reincarnated, like Heart Part 6 is dope rapping on there. The production is super fire. And then just the impact, just the way it was felt, you know, throughout the culture, man. It was inescapable. It definitely defined the time.
I'm gonna be a stand right now. I love when Rob Markman used the word inescapable, because he be battling the same trolls as me. I'm gonna go ahead and say this. Hey, Rob Markman, why was you trying to escape it, my boy? Is that a little West Coast bias you got? Just say that. I'm just playing. I am just playing. I'm just being a troll. I have the same logic as these damn stands that exist in his comment section and my comment section. Don't know why they love us so much, but that's the same type of, why was you trying to escape it? Huh? I think we have a class. I know we have a classic album with GNX. Continue though.
And then the accolades, right, is like the cherry on top, right? Like Luther 13 weeks at #1 on Billboard, GNX debuting at #1, right, on the album chart, the Grammy nominations, the Super Bowl, the tour, like, you know, all the accolades to me is the cherry on top. I think the culture defines it as a classic first, and then those mainstream accolades, cherry on top. But regardless of all that, I think it's an album that each track, you know, is fire, like it doesn't miss. And I think we're going to be talking about this and remembering this time 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. I think we'll still be talking about when GNX dropped and what it all meant. But that's just my opinion. Hit me in the comments. Let me know what you think. 1 year.
That's a good point. That's a good point there, Rob. It's a lot of valid points. I think in this room we can definitively say at least one statement. Whether you agree that it's a classic or not, zoom in on my face on this one. We will not be talking about sexy songs for menses. We would not be talking about sexy songs for menses. That is not a song. It's not the name of the album. Huh? Oh, I'll be messing it up sometimes. My bad. We're not gonna be talking about sexy songs for menses, all the 600 gigabytes or whatever it was of nonsense. He makes a great point. Classic production. I think the timing has a lot to do with it too, because when you think about what every classic album has, is it makes a statement at a time where those type of statements are either not common or they're more challenging to make in the moment. And I feel like GNX being so unapologetically, first of all, unapologetically black, unapologetically West Coast, unapologetically polished and commercial to a certain degree, there's so many things about it that feel like, damn it, it was made to be a classic. It was made to be the perfect follow-up after engaging in that crazy ass battle. It was the album that needed to drop because so many questions were answered, because people were like, what is he going to do after the battle? Is he going to fill up the void? Does he have it in him to make these commercial songs? All that stuff that they trying to preach right now about, oh man, it's so boring. You just not listening. It's amazing music all the way around, almost too much to even keep up with. I told you it's going to be a worse take than this one, though. I shouldn't say worse take. It's going to be a more controversial take. Lay your eyes on this one. I remember the day that Glasses Malone said this, because it was after my birthday, and there was still excitement around the project even months and months after it had dropped in the end of 2024. Glasses Malone says GNX equals hip-hop's Thriller. Yeah, that Thriller. That Michael Jackson Thriller, often debated as one of the greatest albums of all time. When I first saw this, my knee-jerk reaction was a lot like the comments in here. No way. I love Kendrick, but no way. Nobody replaced Michael Jackson. I damn near cried. I thought about me as a kid watching the Moonwalker DVDs and the Moonwalker, not DVDs, the Moonwalker VHS, and watching him morph into a car and he drove off, and the spiders and the tarantulas, and I just remember the terrible claymation. It wasn't terrible at the time, but it was still showing you how legendary, how global, how once in a lifetime Michael Jackson was. And Thriller was just that album that just chef's kiss. Nobody else was doing it. It knocked down doors. One of the first black artists to be played on MTV. There are things that it accomplished that nobody. It's almost like the debates of Michael Jordan. There's some people who will never, ever have that conversation. And we're not going to have a conversation about who's greater, but he didn't say that it's better than Thriller. Glasses Malone said GNX equals hip-hop's Thriller. When you look at that criteria, it becomes a little bit more interesting. I'm not going to hold you. I just did like a little glance at like the track listing and all that. And come on, guys. These people don't have these kind of songs on one album. Wanna be starting something? Baby Be Mine. The Girl Is Mine with Paul freaking McCartney. Thriller. Beat It on side 2. You know how great of an album you gotta get if Beat It is on side 2, and then all of a sudden you say, oh, I'm not done. Billie Jean, oh my God. And then you said Human Nature? And then PYT, Pretty Young Thing. I always mix that up with Pretty Young Thug because of Tupac, but that's neat. The Lady in My Life. These are songs that we're not comparing the albums as which one is better. But I do think there are some odd similarities. Let's start with this one. How long does it say this album is? 42 minutes. Interesting. Well, GNX is 44 minutes. That's just light work. That's light work. Let's go down some of the tracks here. And obviously there's a little bit of recency bias, a lot of recency bias because it just dropped. But when you think about what these songs mean in terms of his catalog, and songs that will be played, especially at shows and tours and stadiums from here on out to the end of his career. I look at Squabble Up as one of those that I keep playing at sports events. I look at Luther, because that's one of him and SZA's biggest songs together. I personally love Man at the Garden. Hey Now, Reincarnated, which shows you him in his pocket essence. TV Off. It will never not be a year that's not played at some football game. Dodger Blue. I think that's more regional in terms of how long that's going to. The Dodgers just won the World Series. Don't let them keep winning more stuff. Peekaboo! Peekaboo! Peekaboo. Hard Part 6. I'm gonna skip GNX. Amazing verses. I just did beat. Whew, it just didn't do it for me. Gloria. Oh my gosh. There's so much about it, but like I said, we're not comparing that. Let me be very clear before we get into this conversation. I need about 3 or 5 of your minutes. I see you in the comments. I see you saying this is blasphemous. Give me 3 to 5 minutes. And let me give you a disclaimer first. Look, MJ is undeniably the greatest to ever do it. Thriller is in a league of its own. There are albums in pop that can never even come close. We're just pointing out today the wild coincidences and overlaps that make Glasses Malone's take worthy of discussion. I'll start off by saying this. GNX is Kendrick's once in a generation mainstream takeover album. GNX is Kendrick Lamar's once in a generation mainstream takeover album. Think about the takeover of what happened during the battle. In the streaming era, because you got to separate that. That's why it's unfair to make these comparisons, because we're talking about streaming era versus actual people going and taking their asses to Tower Records and buying an album. That's why we're not comparing that. Those are 2 different experiences. Let's go. Let's just break this down in a few categories. I got this separated here on a notepad. These both were albums for Michael Jackson and for Kendrick Lamar that were career turning point albums. What do I mean? We're not comparing them because GNX and Thriller sound similar, but because their functions are very much alike. Both albums make the moment a legendary black artist becomes the center of the entire culture. When you think about the success of Not Like Us, when you think about the sold out stadiums, when you think about the icon that Michael Jackson was, I know that's probably before a lot of some of the younger ones that are in here. And even to a certain degree, I was still a baby. So you can give me better perspective in these comments. But I do think that these are very important turning points for their album, for their careers. If my research serves me correct, this was Michael Jackson's opportunity to show that he was more than just Motown Jackson 5 Michael Jackson. This was his opportunity to really stand out there. This is where Michael Jackson Thriller went from star to icon. He also broke racial barriers on MTV who were not playing black artists on their music videos. He also had his global takeover because of Thriller album. Let's talk about GNX. This is the first full album that Kendrick has had under his PG Lang empire. It's a very important time for him to prove not just he could follow up the battle with commercial success, but he could follow it up with his own imprint after his stay with TDE. It proves he's not just TDE's conscious lyricist like a lot of people tried to make it, but he is indeed the centerpiece of hip-hop culture. This also repositions West Coast rap because of the abundance of features on here on a world stage. Both are the moment that the artist stopped playing with the system and started to actually play within the confines and change things within the system. Continuing. That's my first point. Second point, every song damn near feels like a single. With the exception of GNX. Thriller, 7 out of the 9 songs became top 10 hits. I'm just giving these numbers because it's interesting of the overlaps. GNX, all 12 songs hit the Hot 100. And mind you, this album dropped last year, so it's still things that are happening that could happen after the Grammys. Kendrick also held the entire top 5 in 1 week. Thriller obviously dominated as an album on the charts a lot longer, but we'll get to that in a second. The closest thing to Thriller level dominance in the streaming era has to be GNX. Show me another album that has had that type of dominance, that type of momentum after a battle, and we can have a discussion. Thriller dominated radio. GNX dominated everything, streaming, TikTok, playlists, wherever music is found, are discovered, are shared. GNX definitely had a voice in all that. Let's talk about a third one. The awards take over. Thriller won 8 Grammys in 1 night. I don't know if that will ever be surpassed. That is insane. Won Album of the Year as well, and it set new industry records. GNX is one of the most nominated albums heading into major awards seasons, not just the Grammys. It's nominated for multiple categories and positioned for the Album of the Year run that Thriller had. Like I said, not 8 Grammys in one night, but it's heading for Album of the Year run. This is just worthy of discussion. This is interesting to me. Point 4. These are both representing very cinematic eras. When you talk about the visuals, when you talk about your first memory, when you think of Thriller, the first thing I think about a Thriller is the Halloween imagery and the cinematic turning a music video into a movie. Hear me out. So Thriller did that with the short films, right? GNX, the GNX tiramisu, I'm gonna call it the tiramisu trailer with the with the doors, the big ass doors, and then you see the cars and you kind of get a preview of a song that wasn't even on the project. And even the West Coast cinematic visuals that you saw on the tour. Like, even if these are not necessarily direct comparisons, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody was conscious of this as they rolled out GNX. Because it's oddly similar. The Super Bowl performance as a cultural statement. Sold out stadium scale Grand National Tour. He's selling out stadiums after this album. Credit it to whatever you want, but Thriller made music videos into movies. GNX turned an album into a Marvel Universe post-battle. Think about how many times you listen to GNX and think about that actual battle and whether or not this line. If you're going to crash out, then you better break the backboard. Black Noah, I just strangled me a goat. Like, it's so many of those that you got to go back to. Also, this is a really, really interesting point as well. These albums both represented cultural resets. Thriller shifted pop music forever. There are songs that will never, until we die, that will never stop being played and will never lose their impact generation to generation. MJ put 80s black excellence front and center. Don't let the version that the people be impersonating, don't let that version fool you. Forget Pepsi. You know what I'm saying? Forget all that. Don't let that version fool you. Michael Jackson was out here from Gary, Indiana. You better go watch that story that Freddie Gibbs got about him. GNX is the first true post-streaming West Coast rebuild album. I think it's a great argument for it is post-streaming, probably one of the most impactful West Coast albums that were made from scratch. And it's unapologetically West Coast. It's the centerpiece of the biggest rap storyline of the decade, if not of all time. GNX also sets a new sonic blueprint other artists have been copying off of. Oh, you think I'm playing? Have you seen the NLE Chopper video with them overalls and that Tupac bald head? Yeah, we didn't cover that. Did you see Sierra? Sierra's out here crip walking with palm trees. And so many more. I think about that and I think about all the people that you see. Like, remember, what movie was that? Oh my God, what movie was that? Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop, where he's walking down Beverly Hills and he sees the dudes in the Michael Jackson jackets. I'm telling you, if you go out here, you're going to see a bunch of people that you can tell wearing them damn Kendrick bell bottoms. Shit, I damn near got some on right now. Oh, you can't see that. You can't see that. That's crazy. Both of these didn't follow the culture. Thriller and GNX didn't follow the culture. They redirected it. Isn't this interesting? You may disagree. Isn't this interesting? And then here's just some odd similarities that I'm sure it's just coincidence. Thriller and GNX both dropped in late November and became the next year's defining album. Both had very focused and polished commercial sounds that were unapologetically black. Both albums blurred genres, R&B, rap, I guess you could even say pop. Well, not, of course, Michael Jackson pop. When you think about Luther, you think about other songs that are meant to be in that conversation. Both had massive, I got something to prove narratives behind them. Like I said, Michael post Motown success, Kendrick post Battle and TDE success. And I just thought that was funny to see that both albums are 40 minutes. But DIYers, I got no skin in this game. I want to see you angrily get in these comments. Be respectful, but I want to see you angrily get in these comments and tell me how crazy I am. I want it. I work out to meet the grams. I've heard worse things today. I think Glasses is on to something with that. And I was hoping that we were going to be able to hear from him today. I would have loved to have him on the live stream. Like I said, this is by no means trying to discredit the legend that is Michael Jackson. There will never be another Michael Jackson. Please don't be that simplistic with your rebuttal. That's not what this is. I'm a Michael Jackson. I'm one of them kids that listen to Michael Jackson coming up, and I was like, he the best to ever do it. He the best to ever do it. Go Michael. I might have cried a little bit when I was a kid, and none of your business. So I don't want to ever see any conversation of him being dethroned. However, I think we gotta, my final thoughts are this. Sometimes we're so married to nostalgia that we won't even entertain the conversation. Sometimes we think it's such West Coast bias. Sometimes we think it's such regional bias, I should say, in general. Sometimes we have such an affinity for what we came up on, we could never see it any other way. I'm just saying, when it has that many similarities, isn't it worth a conversation? DIYers, those are my thoughts. You let me know what you think. DIYers, if you enjoyed this content, make sure that you hit the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. Come on, man. Stop being greedy. Peace.